Hello everyone, welcome to this Train Sim World 4 discussion. Today we are at Cologne, we're at Cologne, for the first time in ages, probably more than a year. I had a little run on this route earlier, and I really enjoyed it, and I thought it'd be a great place for our Train Sim World discussion. So that is indeed what we are going to do. Let's get all of our safety stuff on. We'll get the pantograph up, the circuit breaker closed, passenger lights on, AFB, come on, AFB on. We will get our destinations set to Brussels. And that is the setup done. So what are we going to talk about this video? So I guess just my sort of unfiltered, unprompted opinions of Train Sim World 4. What I think of the announcement, what I think of the featured content, what I think is bad, what I think is good, and all of these opinions will be fleshed out in a much more structured, organised form in future videos. So keep your eyes open for that. Oh, I didn't know there was a... Actually, I probably did know there was a 363 here. Just a bit blind. Let's get the doors locked. But also, I have found some interesting information about a potential new US route. Potential US route in another one in sort of Los Angeles, San Diego, that kind of thing. That being the Pacific Surfliner, as you've probably already seen in the title, if I put that in the title. So I guess I'll talk about that first. I'll try and find the image. So my attention was brought to this... Oh, Jesus, my throat. Yeah, so my attention was brought to this through a Discord server that I am in. And I'll try and pull the image up. Add image, create new, and it's going to be downloads that. Yes. Be quiet. This image that you're looking at now is of the cab car of a Pacific Surfliner train. So that has led me, and this was amongst other pictures of recording the like the F-25 locomotive, and I believe it had recording equipment attached. They've pulled the original image off Dovetail. Of Dovetail Live, I believe, because I can't find any of them anymore. But certainly it's interesting that that managed to slip through. And if they have put recording equipment on, it might just be future-proofing, whilst they're there, they'll take some sounds if they want to do that in the future. Or it could be suggestive of a section of the Pacific Surfliner being in development. There is a little bit of crossover between Pacific Surfliner and Antelope Valley, but only between Burbank and LA Union, at which point the Surfliner sort of continues on a northwest direction, whereas Antelope Valley turns towards the east, stock up to 70. So yeah, it's sort of a bit peculiar. I probably won't make my own standalone video because it's just not quite enough to tell, or not for a little while, certainly. We shall see. It's just something worth note, and diesel Amtrak routes have been suggested very heavily. If they're using the cab car, perhaps, well, it leaves the loco's choice of loco up for debate. Probably a Siemens Charger Okay, we'll set the AFB all the way up. So I'll turn CIFAR off as well, just so we can talk a bit more. Not worry about AFB and PZB and LZB, whatever else. So, yes, that specific Surfliner somewhere in LA, maybe with potentially a Siemens charger and the Surfliner bi-level stock. Not really too much of note, just something worth considering. But yeah, anyway, we'll get back into my regular discussion. So I've made my opinions on the actual contents of the routes and locomotives quite clear, but for the sake of people who might not know, I believe basically that content-wise we're getting scammed. There's not enough content really to justify even standard. I mean, I guess compared to a normal route cost, it's not terrible. And if you don't own anything, then the special pack is not terrible value, but in fact it's pretty good value. But we don't know if the Train Sim World 4 core is going to break anything in the same way that the Train Sim World 3 core did, and there are some things that are still unplayable in Train Sim World 3 that were carried from Train Sim World 2 that have not been fixed a year into its successor's announcement, which I don't want to see a repeat of that. I'm a bit wary, a bit cautious recommending anyone buy the special pack. I'm a bit cautious recommending anyone pre-order anything, because really I believe you should wait until at least the early access reviews start to come in, or at the very least we get some actual gameplay preview streams. The best route, I think, by far is Vorarlberg. There's station density, there's a new train, and a 185. Which 185 recycled, but it's better than nothing. Other than that, it's first Austrian route, that's cool. It's our first cross-border route, that's cool. The route itself is quite interesting. We've got a few branches, and it's got the potential for a lot more loco packs, and it does have some stuff for the Siemens Vectron as well. And I believe it might have something for the Flirt that we've got from Luzern to Zersee as a layer, because I think I saw that in a screenshot, but I'm not certain. I haven't seen it mentioned anywhere else, even though I might just not have read things properly. Antelope Valley, since I've already talked about it a little bit, I think it's a big disappointment. It's just a single track branch line with one type of train and a BNSF layer. Unless BNSF is included. I wouldn't assume so, because you can't really, there's not much to drive. But yeah, you got like 13 or 14 stations. Oh wow, so cool. Over 2 hours in driving amongst sand. It's pretty boring. It's just Cajon Pass, but you're stopping occasionally. It's not interesting. And they're going, oh yes, and the big landmarks like the LA River. It's like the LA River is I could piss faster than the LA River, and it's in a concrete box. It's hardly scenic, is it? It's really got nothing against Vorarlberg. I mean, really, even Cajon Pass has some relevance, because it's a strategically important line, as opposed to Antelope Valley, which is like 19 daily trains. The timetable is I can count all the trains on that timetable on my fingers and toes. It's a ridiculous choice, and I don't understand the logic behind it. The only way that I think it can be explained now is potentially through this specific Surfliner layer, if they want to have a F125 and something to run it on, and then release a Surfliner later and have people buy that as well. Because if they did it the other way around and did a Surfliner on release and then a Antelope Valley later, then no one would buy Antelope Valley. But if they force you to have Antelope Valley, and then force people, and then, you know, if people want to get Pacific Surfliner, they have to get Antelope Valley and that. Well, who knows? Yeah, Pacific Surfliner might not even be a thing, so I've got to be careful discussing that. But yeah, Antelope Valley, not a fan, and the rolling stock is... We're only getting... Like, they couldn't even be bothered recycling the MP36 PH or the Bombardier bi-levels. That's pretty sloppy. It just shows the lack of care or the lack of interest that Dovetail has in producing a good quality product. And additionally, it's not actually that interesting a route. Like, it doesn't lend itself to any of the core features, especially. Like, each of the games have had a sort of pronounced feature, like Train Sim World, well, since Rush Hour. Like, Rush Hour introduced new passenger behaviours, Train Sim World 3 introduced the longer routes, whereas Train Sim World 4 is introducing nothing. It's just a, you know, they're having a second crack at Train Sim World 3, but hopefully it'll be slightly smoother release. But I think people are just sick and tired of all this utter shit that Dovetail are forcing us to sit through. It's pretty hopeless. Yeah. Anyway, then East Coast Main Line, very disappointing. 5 stations, 80 miles. Oh wow, look, it's so long. I don't care how long it is. I don't give a toss. It's a boring bit of the route. Oh wow, there's a flat crossing that you look at for 2 seconds, like literally like 5 seconds, and then it's gone. And, you know, half the trains don't stop at any of the stations on the route. And this is the kicker, and this is for Antelope Valley as well. None of the new stuff, none of the new rolling stock will layer onto anything else on release. So you won't be seeing a Class 801 at Edinburgh or Glasgow or anywhere else that it would fit. You won't be seeing any Metrolink trains at San Bernardino. It's ridiculous. Like, these are textbook fits for these trains. People have been whinging about these big terminus stations being empty, and Dovetail have an opportunity to fill them, and they're not. It's outrageous. And then you look at Just Trains, who I think are doing quite a nice job with their Blackpool route. They're taking their time, they're not rushing, and from the screenshots it looks very nice. And they're including in their pack a new train, the Class 142, which has been highly requested. And then they're also bundling in a Class 47 and a Class 08. So you're getting 3 pieces of rolling stock from this third party who haven't released anything before. And Dovetail, who are releasing their 4th iteration of this franchise, can't even be bothered to release, you know, more than 2 things per pack. The East Coast Main Line comes with the Class 66 as well, because they couldn't actually be bothered adding any more modern freight locomotives. They're just going to keep recycling the Class 66, which I believe is our only modern freight loco in the UK in-game. Because he got the Euro Phoenix 37, but that's just for ECS moves. It's ridiculous. Yeah, ECML. Why not King's Cross? Why not literally anywhere else would have been nicer? The northern bit of the route where it runs, you know, like the Border Bridge and up through Berwick and that stuff over the Tweed. It's a lovely part of the route. Or you could go for the high density commuter stuff and reuse a 387, reuse the Class 700, introduce a 700-1. Like, all of these possibilities, and you let them run dry by going, oh well, yes, we're going to do Peterborough to Doncaster. That's going to be our ECML route. It's going to be a fantastic route, and you can drive it. It's going to be really fast. I don't care how fast it is. I don't care how long it is. I just want it to be an interesting route. And at the heart of this issue, you have not provided an interesting route. Where's the incentive? I am going to pre-order the game. I'm going to get Deluxe Edition so I can do reviews of the Flying Scotsman and the Vectron, which will not be available as separate Loco DLC. Just bear that in mind. If you want to play with the Vectron and Flying Scotsman, they are forcing you to pay for the Deluxe Edition. You cannot buy Standard and then go back later and buy it. If you want to do that, you have to buy Standard and then go back and buy Deluxe later. So you have to buy the whole game again just to get 2 extra trains, which is borderline scam as well. Bit of horn coming through Durham. It's ridiculous. I've said that so many times in this video, but I cannot understate how disappointed I am in the choice of routes. It is fucking outrageous. Yeah. What else can I talk about? What else is there, really? The Vectron's okay. I mean, we've known about it for ages. I think it's a shame that they're going to hide it behind a paywall. I don't think that's fair. What else is there? There's Can I just quickly toggle AFB off? There you go. No, do you want to work? Come on, there you go, 160. Yeah, there you go, okay. We are in business. So yes, Vectron's alright. I think it's a shame they're hiding it behind a paywall. Flying Scotsman, cool. I mean, always nice to have more Steam, and it is a very famous Steam locomotive. It's just a shame that we don't have anywhere interesting to run it on. Blackpool, obviously, quite a nice route from first appearance. Looks good. The volumetric fog, I slagged that off a little bit in my initial video, but I'm coming around to that a bit more. I don't think it's a super essential thing, but it'll be a welcome addition, I guess. Likewise, the suspension, it's not super critical, but you know, extra features that actually do make a difference to gameplay, that's the critical component. Making a difference to gameplay are welcome. So things like free roam that, you know, sort of skirt around the whole premise of the game. The game is a simulator, it's not a toy. And they should stop using it and stop marketing it as a toy. Now, free roam, what's the main selling? Oh, you can drive this train on this line and you don't even need to set up a path in the scenario planner. Well, luckily for you, you've got timetable mode that already exists and is the best feature of this game outright. Like, timetable mode, it amazes me that that doesn't exist in Train Simulator, because it is just fucking fantastic. I think people don't realise they have the big routes. They've got almost the entire daily timetable, and you can pick anything that you have the train for and drive it. Like, the work that goes into that is staggering, and I think people will gain a lot more respect for the work that goes into the timetables once the editor comes out, and that's the other thing that I'll discuss shortly. Yeah, it takes a lot of work to go into the timetable, and now you're just circumventing any use of that. Oh, well, just spawn it in free roam. Yeah, I will not be using free roam. I don't think. I don't really see a point. Then there's the formation editor, and I think a lot of people were hoping it would be more like the formation editor in TS, where you can just sort of slap anything together that sort of roughly, vaguely works. and it might occasionally throw up a coupling error. But I think the fact that they've actually taken, well, the Simugraph has sort of forced them to, I think is a bit of a godsend. And I have seen all of the criticisms, or I've seen some of the criticism of that, oh, well, why can't we couple up a ICE3 to a class 700? It's like, because you can't in real life. And this game, well, it was originally set up to be as true to life as possible, whilst still being usable by the average consumer. And it was certainly not being advertised as a toy, as it is now. And that's why I like this route a lot, because it's not trying to set itself up as a toy. It's setting itself up as a proper sim, and they actually cared to implement the new safety systems that worked properly. But yeah, the fact that they're marketing this as the toy is stupid. Anyway, so what was I going to say about the editor? Yes. Finally, we have access to it. I mean, we've had the UE editor for ages, and people have made stuff with that. People have modified timetables slightly, and changed routes slightly. Which is always nice. Modders have been doing that stuff for ages, but the fact that PC users for free have access to the editor and can do more or less anything in it, it is pretty nice. It's a shame that we can't modify existing routes, although it sort of makes sense, because you can modify existing routes in TS Classic, but in TS Classic everything is far bollocks. Right, we'll turn PZB off for now. Like in TS Classic, everything is far less optimized. Am I supposed to be at 140 now? Oh, supposed to be at 120 now. Haven't been paying attention. Yes, editor. So it's a shame that we can't edit the existing routes, but it does make sense, and I'm not going to criticize Dovetail for that, because there's nothing they can do to change that, because I have to bake the assets in to optimize, well, for their I mean, if they weren't optimized at all, these routes would be actual worse slideshows than my news videos, but obviously a shame. Then I've seen so many people talking about so many console players, and I don't quite think that console players understand what the editor is. I think a lot of console players, and if you're a console player and you're disappointed that you haven't got the editor, then listen up, because this is addressed to you, right? The editor is a version of Unreal, the Unreal editor, which is a Windows-only application. For Dovetail to make that work on console, not only would they have to somehow map an entire keyboard's worth of keybinds to a controller to make anything even slightly useful to anyone who doesn't have a keyboard to hand that they can plug into their console. They would also have to port an emulator into Train Sim World 4, package an emulator into the game, or hard code it or something, and then package or ship the editor with that emulator. So it's almost completely impossible. And I say almost because there is probably a very, 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 very difficult and time-consuming way that you could run the editor on console, but I do not think it is worth the time or the investment, and I don't think it will gain much because I don't think you can really do anything. You wouldn't be able to do much on the editor on console. Because the other misconception I think a lot of console users are getting is that this will be like Train Sim Classic. You just pick this asset and you drop it down, and then you plonk your train down and you press go. It's not like that. If you want to make a route, you have to import your height map. Which you have to find from somewhere, and that's not too difficult. You have to set this up. You have to lay all of your tracks. You have to lay all your signals. You have to set up the signaling system. You have to code it by hand. And of course, you can't edit existing routes. You have to set up all your own timetables. Have to make all your own trains. You'd have to model your own trains, import the models, and do all of that. And if there's anything that you don't want to use a standard asset for, you would have to make that asset yourself in Blender, and work out how to import that into UE. And that would be almost impossible to do on console. I think there is an argument to be made, and I think it, long term, I think Dovetail will integrate a system that allows editor-made content to be circulated on Creators Club and thus played by console users. But I do not think any version of the editor will ever come, or any version of the Unreal editor will ever come for console. They might build their own in-house, slightly shitty editor where you just plonk a spline down and it's your track, and you can sort of like Transport Fever 2, but for a route that you can then come and play. But it's very important to understand that the actual editor is professional software used by professionals who spend years doing full-time jobs using this and still don't know all the tools. It will be very difficult, and they're using high-end PCs. It'll be very difficult to do anything on just a bog standard off the shelf console. And I have informed people who have commented, oh, it's such a shame that console can't use the editor. Sure, okay, it's a shame, but it does make complete sense. And there is a workaround too. I mean, it's not a very useful workaround because you obviously can't play. Is that signal yellow? No. It's not a very useful workaround, but you can always just... I wouldn't assume that the downloading the editor has a owner verification. So you could probably download the editor and use the editor and build things in it. You just wouldn't be able to play them because you don't have an installation of Train Sim World 4 on your PC. And the only other option is you just buy a PC copy of Train Sim World 4. I don't know, there's a chance that they might make a free version of Train Sim World 4, but you can only play things that you have made in it. I don't know. Why am I sitting here? What am I waiting for? Waiting for a freight train. What is the freight train waiting for? Apparently nothing. So things that I plan to do in the editor, just whilst we're sitting here. It's supposed to be an Archon in 3 minutes. This might just be broken, but why is that set to danger? Let's have a look. Where are the points set for? Yeah, I plan to do some Australian things. Obviously, that's going to be difficult. The route building won't be too hard. I can, reuse assets wherever possible and avoid making my own. The hard part is going to be making rolling stock. That's going to be super hard. Like trying to figure out Simugraph and trying to model anything like that is going to be truly difficult. Really, especially difficult. Are you going anywhere? Yes, no, maybe. Yeah, I'll just finish my rant about the editor, and then we'll finish up here, because I don't think we're gonna. I think that's a bug. I don't think we're actually gonna go anywhere. But yeah, so thank you, train. If you, oh my god, if you are in Australia and or have any interest in or skills in Blender, and you would be interested in sort of doing any kind of, I mean, obviously this won't be any kind of paid position. I'm not setting up a third-party dev team or anything of that nature. I just sort of want to explore the possibilities, and I'm going to, really seriously talk about this when the editor releases, because there's not much I can do at the moment now. But I have a route in mind, and obviously I've got to be careful that I'm not trying to overachieve. But I would like to at least see if it's possible to do something Australian, and there would need to be a lot of custom assets. Like, oh, here we go. We actually do have a clear signal. It's just as well. I'll turn AFB off though. Shut up, please. Yeah, so the signals will have to be custom made. I'll need to teach myself Simugraph. I'll need to, somehow figure out how to get rolling stock, and that will need to have, interiors modeled, exteriors modeled, sounds done, cabs done, physics done, all of that. And I have absolutely no idea how I'm going to do that. No idea at all. But I will try. If it's too hard and there's actually no way that it can be done in any sort of reasonable manner, then I will stop. But if some sort of community assembles, then I would very gladly either lead or be a part of that community, or set up a community like that. Because I think it's fair to say that there will probably never be an official Dovetail Australian release, and the closest we'll be able to get to that is going to be the Australian community making our own route. And now we have the facilities to do that. I think we should try and make the most of that opportunity. Before obviously I do that, I'd probably have a tinker around with other routes, like, I don't know, some little branch line somewhere. Somewhere easy, like, I don't know, Isle of Wight Steam Railway or something with a 4F, or Epping to Ongar with a 4F again, yeah, that's about it really. I'll have a think, but and then perhaps then after that I'll do a little regional Australian line, and then ramp it up, develop some custom assets, and that regional line could introduce some custom assets. And then you get a grasp of how things work, and then you can slowly build that up. But it's certainly exciting prospects. there's a lot that can be done. I hope that a lot will be done. And that is just about the only thing that actually interests me and excites me for Train Sim World 4. Because this is huge. I don't think people quite understand how big of a thing it will be to have this this editor. And I do think there will be a lot of good quality sort of third-ish party routes. And I think that's a good thing. And Dovetail have said that they would be interested, and they are hoping that allowing people to use the editor will allow the third-party program to grow. And, you know, end goal, perhaps they will let individual create, or like small collectives, monetize their work, which is then, again, another incentive to develop more good quality community routes. Like, there are some fantastic community routes for Train Sim Classic, and I see no reason why, with enough experience, the same couldn't be done for Train Sim World, and that does excite me, and I would like to be a part of that. And yeah, that more or less concludes this discussion video. As I said in the very beginning, some more fully fleshed out ideas will come in the future. With that, thanks for watching, and I will see you all next time. Oh, gold medal? Gold medal? Yes. Goodbye.